Welcome to Ogre's Kitchen. I'm Chef Ogre. Let's check our prep list and see what we have cooking today. In this recipe, we're going back to the brine. Now I'm going to show you a really quick and easy way to break down a cauliflower. And the quickest, easiest way is to just cut straight down the center. And then you have these two lobes, basically. And you could just take your knife and follow right along like this to separate out your cauliflower. Once you get to the front side, you just follow around the same kind of half moon shape to break off the rest of the florets. And then you have florets that you can just break up into whatever size you deem appropriate for roasting, which is what I'm going to be doing in this case. And you can break these up with your hands into appropriate pieces, or you could use a knife and just break them down further like this, just kind of separating them out to the appropriate size that you'd like. Now I'll just finish this up and then we'll move on to the next step, which will just be seasoning and getting this cauliflower into the oven. We'll be roasting this cauliflower around 400 degrees for roughly about 12 to 13 minutes. We can toss the cauliflower a little bit in between, keep an eye on it so that way it roasts evenly, and then whenever it's at the appropriate level of roastiness that you like, that's when it's ready to come on out of the oven. Now, one thing to keep in mind is to always make sure that your pan is of an appropriate size, so that way you can have a relatively nice, even layer of cauliflower. You don't want to crowd it too much, otherwise it's not going to roast evenly. So right here is perfect size pan to accommodate that much cauliflower. So then all we're going to do is lightly oil this and simply use a salt and pepper mix to just season it up. So here we have everything that we need for this dish. So we're going to be just doing a seared brine chicken that's then going to get roasted in the oven, finished off. We're going to make our rice pilaf with mushroom, so there's some nice earthy tones for that fall flavor. And then we're going to be doing some roasted cauliflower. Like I said, we're just going to use a little bit of oil here. Use whatever cooking oil you like. If you want to do olive oil, canola oil, whatever, just enough to coat your cauliflower. And then we're going to just be using that same salt and pepper mix, that 3-to-1 ratio. It's just a really simple seasoning, all-purpose type seasoning. That way you don't really have to worry too much about seasoning to taste here. You can go pretty liberal with the seasoning on these cauliflower. So it takes a good bit of seasoning to season these up nicely. So you just want to make sure they're all coated. That's why I'm wearing the gloves, to keep my hands nice and neat, so they're not getting all oily. And while we're tossing these, we can make sure we break up any larger florets that might need to be broken down to a more reasonable size. And then we're just going to go ahead and make sure that they're more evenly dispersed once again, so that way they roast nice and evenly. Like I said, this will go into a 400-degree oven for roughly 12 to 13 minutes, longer if you'd like to get a little more roastiness to them. And we could just set this aside and have it ready. After the chicken actually comes out of the oven, we'll move on to roasting the cauliflower and then finishing off our pilaf. This will give our chicken time to rest. Now, these are pretty large pieces of chicken. They're roughly 8 ounces. They've sat in that brine overnight. It's the same exact brine that we used for the chicken salad. So it's got the shallots, it's got garlic, a little bit of apple cider vinegar, and then it's got the sage, the thyme, and the rosemary herbs in there as well. So we have all these fall flavors. So this is going to be a really fantastic kind of fall chicken dish. You got the earthiness from the mushrooms here and the rice pilaf that we'll have, roasted cauliflower, and then the chicken. Should be a fantastic dish. So let's go ahead and get cooking. For a rice pilaf, basic recipe that we're going to follow here is a half diced onion. We have 1 cup of jasmine rice to 2 cups of chicken stock. We have our bay leaf. We have some dried shiitake mushrooms, which those will actually soften up and cook in the liquid. And then we could even chop those up at the end if we'd like. They're going to be absolutely delicious. This is an actual mushroom soy sauce here, which is absolutely delicious. If you get a chance to find that in your grocery store, I highly recommend you try it. If you love mushrooms, it helps add a fantastic flavor to anything that you'd want to add soy sauce to and get a little bit of that extra punch of mushroom flavor as well. So now we're ready to start cooking. So in this pan, I'm getting it nice and hot so that way we could sear our chicken here. I have some chicken stock here, so that way we can actually get that starting to warm up for our rice pilaf. So I'll place that in this pot back here. And we'll just put that on a low heat so it can start warming up. So once this pan's nice and hot, and I don't know if it's going to show up on camera, but it's actually starting to smoke a little bit. So I know that it's already starting to be really hot and ready for a sear. We're going to add just a little bit of oil to this pan. You don't need very much at all for this sear. The cast iron is already really well seasoned. And this chicken, because of the brine, we've patted it dry. It should really, hopefully, sear up really nice for us. So we'll just be careful, making sure that you watch your handles always in the kitchen. You don't want them sticking out to catch on your clothing or anything. Just keep them turned inwards as you're cooking. Always have a hot pad on hand as well, just in case you need to remove this from the oven and the stovetop. So we'll go ahead and add a little bit of oil now. And this should heat up extremely quick. You can see it's running extremely quick. And it has that almost glisten to it once you add it to the pan. That's how you know you're ready to go. So I got tongs here, and I'll go ahead and start searing. Now this pan's only big enough for probably 2 of these chicken breasts. So we will only add 2 at a time. Now you can see the beautiful sear that we have on our chicken here, and the brine plays a lot of part in this. There was some sugar in there, so these sugars are actually starting to caramelize on each of these chicken breasts here, and it just makes for a wonderful sear. Just have to be careful. If you have a brine that has a higher level of sugar to it, it really will caramelize a lot faster, so you have to be careful when you sear with something like that. So now that our chicken's done searing, we can move on to some of the next steps. One will be the rice pilaf, which we already have the chicken stock getting hot over here. And now we'll start to warm this pan here over a medium-high heat. We'll saute up our onions. We'll add our rice to parch that. And then we'll add our chicken stock. And then we'll add all of our other seasonings and flavorings. Put the lid on top after it comes up to a boil. And then in roughly 15 minutes or so, rice pilaf will be done. So hopefully this rice pilaf will be done right around the same time as our roasted cauliflower, which will allow our chicken time to rest once that comes out of the oven, and we'll have everything ready to plate up around the same time. So I'm going to go ahead and start this process now. We'll add a little bit of oil to the bottom of our pot, and then we're going to go ahead and add our onions. We're just going to sweat these onions down in here. Give them a little stir every once in a while just to get them nicely coated in that oil. Now you should add enough oil to the pan, not only to cook the onions, but we also want to coat the rice once we add the rice into this. And we'll take note as well that I have all of my mise en place ready off to the side here, so that way I don't have to go anywhere for this entire dish. Everything's set and ready to go for me. Now that our onions are nicely sweated down, you can see, that was a great time where we're going to add our rice. We're going to do the same thing. We're just going to stir this rice. We're just going to parch it a little bit. We're going to let it get a little bit toasty for us. And you want to stir this pretty much constantly. You don't want the rice to stick to the bottom. You want to make sure that all the rice is getting coated nicely with the oil that's in the pot. So that way everything's nice and coated. And when we cook the rice, that oil kind of almost help keep all these individual grains just that individual. You don't want any clumping of the rice. As you can see, our chicken stock is now up to a little bit of a simmer, which is perfect, because now we're going to add that into the pot. This should allow the stock to come up to a nice boil. And we'll even turn this on high at this point, so that way it can come up to a boil for us. A little bit of a stir, and then we're going to go ahead and add all of our other flavorings. So in goes the bay leaf, in goes our mushroom soy sauce, and in goes our shiitake mushrooms, which are dried. And I can see very quickly that this is now coming up to a boil, so we'll just give this one more minute. So now that this is up to a full boil, we can go ahead and put the lid on. And we'll actually turn this down to about a medium heat. And then we'll further turn it down more to a medium low. So that our rice pilaf is working. We're all set. You can let that go roughly about, I'll check in about 12 to 15 minutes. And then we'll go ahead and get our cauliflower working as well, so that way these both end at the exact same time. So now that our time's up on our rice, it's time to go ahead and check it. We're going to check to see if all of the liquid has absorbed. So again, as we take a lid off a pot, we want to make sure we open away from us to allow that steam to escape. Allow any extra moisture come out of that lid. Set the lid aside. And then we're going to go ahead and check our rice. So you can see, looks like all of our liquid is pretty much well absorbed. So what we'll do is we'll actually pull out these mushrooms and hold those off to the side. What we can do is just chop these mushrooms up and incorporate them back in. Probably take the stems out, they remain rather chewy, but the rest of this mushroom should be nice and well hydrated at this point in time. We'll try to get as much of that rice off of them as possible, and we'll also pull our bay leaves. We can discard those. It's always good to count how many bay leaves you put in, so you know how many to come out. And then we're just going to stir through our rice a little bit, just to fluff it up. And then the last thing we'll do is just give this a try, taste the seasoning, and I have salt and pepper here, just in case we need to season any more. I'm going to add just a little bit of salt to this. But the texture of the rice is beautiful. It's still the singularity of the grains of rice. There's still a little bit of texture to the rice. It's not mushy. It's just absolutely delicious. I'm getting those aromatic notes from the bay leaf. It's got some mushroom flavor to it as well. It's just a really nice earthy rice dish. That'll go well with everything else in this dish to really kind of make it more of like a autumn fall type flavor. And now we can just hold this off on the side, keep it warm, and it'll stay nice and warm for us. And we'll give it one last taste as well, just to make sure that was enough seasoning. And that is absolutely perfect. And so we'll cut up our mushrooms and we'll incorporate those back in. All right, now all the components to our dish are ready. Now, I found in my fridge a little bit of a leftover. It was mushroom miso broth that I had in there. So I reduced that down a little bit, and that'll go over top of this entire dish as a little bit of a sauce. That'll kind of incorporate everything together. So honestly, this dish kind of took on a little bit of an Asian flair. So you got a little bit of a autumn, fall, Asian flair going on. You have some of that mushroom soy sauce, and now a little bit of the miso mushroom broth. And it's just going to incorporate so much nicer into the dish. You have a little bit of a sauce as well. So you have our beautifully roasted cauliflower that's finished up around the same time as our rice. And I went and added a little bit of fresh herbs into this rice just to brighten it up a little bit. And now we're going to go ahead and grab our chicken, and we'll slice that out and get it ready for plating. And I always keep a little bit of a drip guard at the bottom of my board here, just in case this does drip out a little bit on me. And then we can go ahead and we're just going to slice this out real nicely. That way we can arrange this on the plate. We're just going to slice this on a nice bias. So that way when we lay it out on the plate, we can spread it out a little bit. And this should be all ready to go. I'll try to do this within the view of the camera by sliding down a little bit. And we're going to start with the rice as the base to our dish. So we'll take a little scoop of this. right there in the center. Then we'll go ahead and add our cauliflower around the outside. I love roasted cauliflower. I just love roasted veggies in general, and fall's a great time to do just that, roast veggies. So this is a great time of year, especially for me, where you can go ahead and roast your veggies, and it's a very seasonal thing. Then we're going to take our chicken. We're just going to lay this out right in front, and we're going to just kind of segment this out a little bit, not let our chicken run away on us. And then we'll just spoon over a little bit of this broth and get some of those mushrooms in there. You can see this chicken's cooked perfectly. I spoon a little bit of that broth over our rice and a little over our cauliflower, so that way it kind of incorporates some of those flavors into everything. And we'll just tidy up our edges just a little bit. There you have it, and then you could even finish with a little bit of nice fresh chopped herbs, just to brighten that dish up a little bit more. And there you have it. There's our roasted chicken that's been brined, and we have our rice pilaf and roasted cauliflower. This is a fantastic fall dish, and we'll just go ahead and we'll give it a little try here. We'll cut off one of these back pieces of the chicken here, get some of that mushroom. Try to. And that chicken is so moist from that brine, and it really picks up those flavors so well. Now, and we'll go ahead and give the cauliflower a try. And a little bit of this rice as well. Really are getting the flavors of autumn. You got some earthy tones, the roastiness from the cauliflower, earthy tones from the mushrooms, and then the chicken itself is so moist and delicious. Really is a fantastic dish that I really hope you'll give it a chance, give it a try. And let me know in the comments down below what you think if you do give this recipe a try. Now, to sum up today's recipe, really it was reusing ingredients and using up ingredients that I already had on hand. So I already had chicken. I was doing a chicken salad recipe previously. I had leftover brine from that recipe as well. So I just reused that brine for the extra chicken that I had, which for a brine, you really can reuse it a couple times and hold it for roughly about a week. And then just be careful what you're using it for. If you've already used the brine for chicken, I would leave it at just that. You don't want to cross over ingredients from chicken to pork to beef or any other type of protein or even a vegetable. What we did today with our recipe is we took that brine that had sage, thyme, and rosemary, a little bit of shallots and garlic. We brined our chicken overnight, 24-hour brine. We took it out, we patted it dry, seared it, and while that chicken was cooking, we went ahead and got all of our other prep together for our rice pilaf and our roasted cauliflower. Once the chicken came out of the oven and it took that time to rest, we finished off our rice pilaf and our roasted cauliflower, so that way everything was ready right around the same time. Now I'd found some broth in my refrigerator as well, and it was a miso mushroom broth, which that really accented the mushroom soy that I was using for the pilaf. So it kind of took a little bit of an Asian flair in this dish. I wouldn't really call the final product something that had Asian flair, but tied a little bit of those ingredients into the final dish, where you have soy sauce and you have a little bit of miso as well, which are just fantastic ingredients that you can use in any dish, honestly, to add a new element of flavor. A little bit of saltiness, a little bit of savoriness, and it just works so well with so many different things. You don't have to just think of a Japanese dish. Really, in the end of the day, what we created is what I think is a fantastic fall flavored dish, where you have elements of savoriness, a little bit of earthiness from your mushrooms, the roasted cauliflower, nice roasty flavors there, and then the brine itself, where it has those herbs which really make me think of this time of year. We're getting into the holiday season, and the sage, thyme, and rosemary start coming into play in a lot of our recipes. So really, I hope you enjoyed this recipe. I hope you can give it a try. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And thank you for watching. That's it from Ogre's Kitchen. Time to sweep, mop, and go home. If you enjoyed today's video, please like and feel free to share. Subscribe for more content and hit that notification bell for when new videos are uploaded. For all those who are subscribed, thank you for your support. Hope to see you next time, and until then, keep those cauldrons bubbling and feast well.